Brandock or Brando C? What was it?
I think it was Brandock.
I love it.
Brandock is back and live.
Yes, we entered in medias res. So we were having this conversation backstage, of course, always scheming and conspiring. Welcome to the channel. Welcome back to the channel, OC.
This is the best place for midnight watch talk here on the East Coast. And
well, it's the best place anytime, but it's only open at midnight, unfortunately.
So it only opens at midnight. So after you've had a couple of beers and a late night pizza, this is the best place.
Or depending on where you are, it might be the cold pizza from last night in the morning, right?
I had leftover pizza. I tend to put in the toaster oven. I drizzle a little bit of olive oil on it and some crushed red pepper. Sometimes I'll take a little bit of honey and put it on the crust.
But it has to be a front loading oven, I guess. When you said toaster oven, it's not it's not an actual toaster, huh?
Front loading toaster oven. Yeah. Cold pizza works too, especially pepperoni. But not for you. No,
not for me at all. I never understood that, man. I generally didn't. Like for me, no, just pepperoni, bacon. I mean, actually, I have a good friend here who told me a story that he had with his family. We're originally from Brooklyn, but he grew up in Southern California. And one time he had the temerity, he had the chutzpah, we should say, to order ham when they went out to eat. And his father almost was fucking him up on the table there. He's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you ordering pork? And he's like, but Dad, we eat bacon all the time. We eat pepperoni pizza all the time. Yeah, American Jews have this interesting love affair with little bits of pork that they can sneak away rather than being so explicit about it. I mean, while you're at it, I don't know, have cold cuts, ribs. Why not? If you're eating it, just eat it. But yeah, I can't, man. The whole. I remember I have this memory from Denmark. I was in Denmark once, and it was a Sunday. They were literally roasting the entire pork. And I had to change the side of the street. But even then, I can't ever get that stench out of my mind. Like I'm literally cringing as I even tell the story. Ryan Hoffrey says air fryers are the greatest thing ever for warming pizza. I mean, the usual oven works fine.
I mean, but think about it. A toaster oven is basically heating up the air, but it's also, it's not frying it. I mean,
physics.
Toaster, yeah.
Physics. That's amazing. It is. That's how ovens work.
What's the difference?
They heat the air around the object. It's amazing.
Now it also heats the cookie sheet, making it a super hot surface that cooks by touch, by physical, but the air as well.
So I actually, we can talk about anything you like, but I wanted to start with the new Vacheron Constantin overseas Perpetual calendars that came out, and pick your brains a little bit. What do you think about them? Do you like them? Do you not like them? What do you not like about them? Let's take.
Well, I think it's of. I think these brands have a tendency, and I posed the question during my live stream earlier, maybe a couple hours ago. Can you think of a single watch that one of these brands has introduced for their anniversary or any new release so far this year that hasn't been astronomically priced? I mean, AP did their new Perpetual calendars. They're all over $100,000. As remarkable as they may be, 7 years in the making or whatever. And here you have these two great, beautiful looking watches, but they're priced at, I think, over $120,000, which justifiably so. They're Perpetual calendars and precious metal. But I guess the question is, when you think about something that has impact on the industry, impact on the market, those tend to be
Right.
things that are mainstream models that are lower price points, under $20,000 for an elitist,
But
even, but
yeah,
even under 10,000 or 5,000.
Obviously from a main common sense perspective, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I was just going to pose simple, counterpoints to them, but even that seems unnecessary now. Well, all their Vacheron Constantin overseas Perpetual calendars are priced at 120. Mm-hmm. So a brand representative would tell you, hey, you should actually be thankful because we don't have an upcharge for these models that we're introducing on the anniversary, right? If you want to get the blue dial standard, white gold Perpetual calendar ultra thin, you'll pay 120 plus tax, and so would you for these. But more importantly, I think the whole stainless steel integrated bracelet watch craze still has us fucked up, and also the ascendance of independent makers too has us fucked up, because oftentimes the entry level pieces they have is their most desirable. And what is entry level, or what is sometimes the only watch on offer for a lot of independent makers, is the simplest watch they have. Usually a time only dress watch of some sort. And when you go to the mainstream brands, the holy trinity of hype, it's the stainless steel sporty pieces that they have that on paper are some of the cheaper watches, if not the cheapest watches they have on catalog. Yet, on the secondary market, they go so many factors on their value with a premium. So on that level, as much as I agree with your perspective that six-figure watches barely make a dent in terms of larger trends on the market, sure, but attractive entry-level watches don't either, right? Because you can't really get, once it actually inspires people, once it's actually hyped up, you can't actually get them at that price point.
Well, like an example that I'm thinking of is the Speedmaster Professional, the Moon watch with the white dial that was introduced. What was that? 2024, maybe? I can't remember. Maybe 2023.
It's been a year, I think.
It's been a year. But I think that's an example of a watch that was, is a mainstream watch that I think they probably sold tens of thousands of them, and they drove people to boutiques to get them, and Swatch Group was able to monetize that extra revenue of getting people to go direct to the corporate channel, and also they've been quite successful at driving people to those primary boutiques, in the promise that they'll get more and more. They'll get the first opportunity to buy new watches as they come in. It's been pretty lucrative for them. But that's an example of a watch that I think, even though it's become less difficult to get, had a pretty big impact. Like, oh, it's a Moonswatch, not a Moonswatch, Moonwatch Professional, Moonwatch, not a Moonswatch.
Imagine how much they devalued their own brand that you now call the actual watch. I mean, in fairness to other groups, it's much easier to scale up when you are manufacturing in China. So hard to compare Omega to actual Swiss-made watches, but that's a story for another day.
Allegedly.
Allegedly, of course, yeah.
Mhm. But like that's been a popular watch. But I mean, aside from the Oyster Perpetuals, Rolex Oyster Perpetuals, which those are still very, very difficult to get. That's probably the best watch under $10,000 that was introduced over the last year.
Yeah, and they hardly have any misses either when they introduce something new to that line, right? The new beige dial, you would expect beige to be the most bland, most uninteresting, but it's such a nice shade that it actually looks like, it kind of looks like a nice patina dial from certain angles in person.
I know that. But Rolex has a way of doing anything that anybody else has done, and because it's Rolex, I mean, I'm sure there's a Nomos that's that shade as well. I'm sure there are a lot of other watches that are that shade, but because Rolex did it, it's different. These are beautiful, by the way. Even like I'm not a big fan of champagne dials, but for some reason this looks really good, doesn't it?
Aesthetically, I have been clamoring for pink on pink anyways. Like, I want to see more pink gold watches with, rosy champagne or pink dials. So for that, it's an absolute hit. I still didn't understand. Okay, Burgundy, to a certain extent, I understand why they went mostly for a monochromatic look, to the point that they even made the night sky crimson, burgundy, whatever you want to call that.
Yeah, they didn't want blue. They didn't want blue to kind of create a weird contrast or conflict with the burgundy.
That I understand. With the champagne, I feel like it's missing something when you have such a classic look, right? This could be how any of these prestige makers make a classy perpetual calendar in that pink on pink combination, which already throws you back, almost a century, let's say. But the night sky is not there. Why is that champagne as well? I mean, it's a minor thing, right? But aesthetically, it throws me off so much that it doesn't have the night sky.
Yeah, and they actually could have gone in two directions on that, because you've got black printing and kind of this light periwinkle blue printing. You could have done that moon phase in either of those, and it would have brought out the periwinkle blue that's on the rehaut there. Or you could have gone black, and it would have complemented the black text that's throughout the dial. So, is it a missed opportunity? But the blue is so pervasive on the moon phases. Anyway, maybe they just wanted something a lot more monochromatic.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that's why I'm saying, like, this is just my personal aesthetic preference, and at some level, it's nitpicking. It's not a shortcoming of the watch, but yeah, I think having gone for a classic look, right? Pink. It's like making a JPS chronograph, right? If you wanna make a gold chronograph, gold sporty chronograph with a black dial or black accents, you don't then put a date at 4:30, right? So when you go for a classic looking perpetual calendar, like with pink on pink, don't try to reinvent the wheel. That's all I'm saying. But they certainly tried.
You've said pink 17 times so far, and I just have to say that because I don't trust my eyes, I don't trust my monitor or whatever. To me, I don't see pink gold here.
Because you are an unwashed Rolex customer who is used to that coppery garbage that they call ever rose.
And because I think because it's brushed, I think in my eye, I'm thinking that this is like a very subtle brushed, not yellow gold, but I don't see this as pink gold for some reason, right? I see this as champagne.
Well, I mean, I think champagne is not a bad term, because champagne itself is not like yellow
Mm-hmm. It has
dominant. It
a
does have
little bit of
some
pinkish.
rosiness in it anyway. So
Yep.
champagne, I don't contest that. But honestly, even with the we can think of it like this. This may have been, alternate history, right? This is something they had in a tray in their manufacture, and it's actually yellow gold that has taken on some rosy patina. I will accept that. But honestly, traditionally, and this is even the case with AP, was arguably a more flashier brand even than Rolex. The 5N pink gold is much less coppery than um, Rolex's Everrose. Sometimes they like to call it red gold because some people are really insecure of their masculinity. They don't want to wear something that's called pink gold. So the manly brands IWC and Breitling will always call their pink gold red gold, so they can have men a little coddled in that feeling. So yeah, we are at the end, we are just nitpicking about something, but this is their 18 karat 5N. It's not 3N. It's not 4N, which is between yellow and red. This is 5N, as far as I know, unless someone can correct me.
Is that the only nitpick that you have, is the moon phase color, or do you have any other issues that you right off the bat?
I actually have a much bigger issue, which let's see if they have any views of. So this is actually, where is that? Because I saw even that open working was gone, but I guess it's back now for this, because if you have seen any of the newer series of the overseas, now this Compass Rose design that has these slight open workings here is completely closed. And where the entire oscillating weight used to be 22 karat gold,
yes,
it's now, I think, rose gold plated tungsten.
Oh, fuck.
With the additional 22 karat gold weight. Do you see the cheating they have done there?
Yeah. So that's that only that outer part is the 22 karat gold, and the
Yes,
rest
sir.
is the tungsten. Oh, they fucked up.
Well, I mean, rest of it can be whatever they want. I don't exactly know, but it's not gold. I can tell you that. I mean, listen, obviously I love getting bent out of shape for nothing. By the way, also, this is what Hodinky has, but their own Instagram, let's pull it up. It doesn't have the open working either. Look. So God knows what you will get when the actual product is delivered. So
that looks like a complete piece of computer generated imagery. That doesn't even, it's not even real.
You see this part, you see that part, but that's computer generated or what? This is the kind of rotor you are delivered with when you get the 4500V, the entry-level stainless steel.
4520? That was 4520.
Right, the reference changed now. Sorry, excuse me. 4520V, which is the new reference for the stainless steel, or rather time and date overseas. Now it comes with a rotor that's like this, not completely 22 karat gold, not open worked in any way. But be that as it may, you are celebrating your 270th anniversary. you are presenting two new models which honors that milestone, and you may have gone the Patek way of cheapening out at your entry level product, but man, how dare you? Like, how dare people who direct Vacheron disgrace Vacheron in this way? Like, cheapening out on your anniversary watch that cost $135,000. You want to give people a more industrialized rotor that you were doing better when your watches were cheaper. How does that make sense?
Yeah, especially because it's such an important selling point at the field level, where the salesperson is presenting the watch to the customer and saying, and flipping it over and saying, and by the way, check out that 22 karat gold rotor. It is a selling point for them to stamp the 22K on there, but not have it be a full 22 karat gold rotor. I think puts those sales associates in an awkward position.
Yeah, I just want to show also just the 4500V with how the rotor used to be, so we can have the reference point as well. All right, that's right here. Look, this is just one. Hi, Ozzy. This is just one that's on. You see?
Mm-hmm.
Open worked here. Not much, by the way, huh? These are not hand beveled edges or anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, God knows they are saving maybe $15 to $25 a watch or whatever nonsense it is, right? And look, this is like the way they started doing it now. They used to do that, right? AP used to do that with their exhibition case back pieces that had, like open worked oscillating weight with that supplemental weight that was in actual gold. But it wasn't fooling anyone. Usually the shades were different, etc. It wasn't. And also, these watches were much cheaper. Now they're in a completely different segment where they're so much more expensive, and we see more and more corners being cut every single day. It's really shameful.
That is a beautiful shade of cherry or burgundy or whatever you want to call it. One of the most interesting Rolex day dates is a white gold cherry dial day date. So I think this does a good job tapping into something that feels rare and different and off the beaten path, yet classy. There's precedent. There's precedent for the white gold and the burgundy
and
colorway.
Obviously, by the way, I mean, there's a reason, right? Why they keep coming up with similar themes all the time, right? It's not a coincidence that Rolex now has a yellow gold Oysterflex Daytona with a turquoise lacquered dial right around the same time when AP came out with a 37 millimeter Royal Oak in yellow gold with a turquoise stone dial, right? Those kinds of dial colors and color matching, it doesn't just materialize. Obviously, it follows larger trends. I'm guessing it's Amir Al-Shamma. I just bought 118-239 last week with cherry red dial. Nice.
Yeah, there's some of those that are available with a Super Oyster bracelet as well, which is a very, very rare combination. And some are just on the burgundy strap.
Mm-hmm. And Amir says the Rolex Ever Rose Gold is not appealing. Older Rolex Day Date with rose gold are much better and beautiful, and also quite rare, right? You know, any day date that's not yellow gold is, depending on the reference, of course, considerably more rare usually than yellow gold, right? You know, pink gold, white gold, and white gold especially, I find a very subtle choice. But yes, right, you know, the alloys that all these brands were using were much different. And I think, you know, I'm a romantic. I like throwback stuff, you know. So for me, those were the better days. But you know, Ozzy says, I love oyster on day date. Not sure if I agree with that. I don't know. Some things should be left as as they are. Day dates to me belongs on a president bracelet. As much as I love changing everything, even the Rolexes, into leather straps, yeah, I feel like a day date is missing something when it's on a leather strap even.
Yep.
Any other, you know, loose points, loose ends about the
I mean, they're ultra thin, so they're super classy looking, you know, with that very thin profile.
Yeah.
I mean, they're little tiny things that bug me, but they're not. These are more OC things, like having the 5 in the rehaut rather than 0.5. That's just my, you know, to balance out the other side. That's just
the
me.
old Air King dilemma.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I like it and there are brands that are doing more and more of the 0.5s.
Yeah.
So that's just a little thing. Also, the way they stuff 4 quarters uh, of dates into one revolution around that dial at the 12
Yeah.
o'clock. It
I
seems like that hand that hand goes around once
don't
every 4
understand.
years.
Yeah, I really don't understand that. Yeah, I don't understand why that was necessary for them. Um, yeah, in all fairness.
That's just the way the perpetual
Yeah, I guess that's their
mechanism was
model.
designed.
You know, the thing I do like about this series still, and I feel like they're gonna eventually retire it too, but these are basically in the current market at retail. These are the only integrated bracelet sports watches that you can get that still run on the legacy JLC caliber 920. Right? That's why they're ultra thin. That's why they don't have a seconds hand, right? You know, so it's that is the base movement, and if you know the architecture of it, where the rotor revolves around the main bridge plates, you'll immediately recognize this is the JLC 920 still.
That would be actual horology. So no, I'd have no idea.
And I appreciate that. So for me, between these two, even though I was expecting to like the pink on pink better, I like the novelty factor of the white gold with the burgundy dial. And I know, again, you know, novelty exactly how, you know, because there are precedents, like you said. But for this particular watch, I think it's a very, very original and unique option aesthetically. I just wish, you know, even if they gave up the actual 22K rotor, the open work version, in the transition from 4500 to 4520, they should have kept it at least for their 6-figure watches. God damn. I mean, it's like, that's not it. That's not where we should be going with these prestige brands, right? Cutting corners is not not luxury, right? Wendy's doesn't cut corners, right? Why does Vacheron?
Yeah. Also, like part of like my psychology when the people introduce or these brands introduce different color dials is it doesn't cost them anything different. It doesn't cost them any more to make a burgundy dial versus a blue dial or a silver dial. It's so I don't know. Part of that, like I think about like what should they be doing that actually makes it more premium instead of just a color change. You know?
Well, you
Like for
could,
example, I mean, it could be like for example, I mean, diamond baguette indices is a way of premium, adding premiumization
but that
to the
also,
dial.
that also doesn't cost a lot, honestly. I mean, I have a lot of friends who are in the diamond business. Um, it it's not a lot. Like it's not. I mean, I know it's premiumizing the whole thing. Premiumizing in this case would be, and I love hating on modern AP usually, but you gotta hand it to them when they deserve it. They came up with a new movement, right? Um, that's it, right? As much as I'm again romantically attached to the classic ultra thin JLC 920 tractor base, maybe it's time to move on, right? Get your R&D in place, make a movement that's still ultra thin, that uses either a full rotor or maybe a micro rotor, but has efficient winding, higher power reserve, and still keeps you within the same dimensions. Um, Otherwise, I actually, the aesthetic of the dial specifically, right? Because the larger design of the overseas, nothing will overdo or outdo Royal Oak for me. So that's not fair for me to compare. But the actual dial design in its balance, um, that 3 subdial plus moon phase indicator look, to me, that's superior. We don't need a second sand. We don't need weekly calendar. God knows I could even do without a leap year indicator, but obviously it's necessary from a utilitarian perspective. But yeah, they could have done a new movement. I'm not even saying like, come up with something that AP has, right? Where you can actually adjust everything from the crown with different positions, different directions, etc. Forget about that. Pushers are fine for me. I'm an old head still. It's okay. Use a pin, use a toothpick. That's fine. But they could, yeah. That's premiumizing a high horology product. Come up with a movement that's not 80 years old. I'm exaggerating, of course. It's more like 60. But yeah, don't you think it's half a century is enough time to retire a movement?
It depends. I mean, what AP did is they decided they wanted to fix or improve on the ergonomics of setting the watch. They wanted to improve, I guess, on the water resistance by not having those pushers, and they set out to do that, and they accomplished it. I mean, if there's no pressing demand to change and it's reliable the way it is, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I guess I guess I'm not in tune with what the Vacheron collector, who's been a collector for decades and decades, wants out of the brand.
But I completely respect your perspective in the sense that you want something that serves a purpose, right?
Yeah.
If you want to eliminate the pushers, it's not just from a
Yeah,
point of view of aesthetics. You want to make the case actually more waterproof. fine. But sometimes, I'll just say this in one sentence without being long-winded. Sometimes you just mechanical watchmaking is over engineering. Period. So I know power reserve this, power reserve that. It doesn't really matter for people who have collections, right? What am I gonna do with a perpetual calendar that has 150-hour power reserve? You either have a winder or not, right? You know, either you set things right every time you put it on, or you keep it on a winder. Doesn't really matter what the power reserve is. That being said, making a mechanical watch means that you are going to address problems that are not even there, that you perhaps even throw an obstacle in your own path and overcome it. Right? So yeah, that's my thing, right? But again, going back to the first point, they didn't actually raise the prices for this edition. It's at the same price point as any other ultra thin perpetual calendar they have. You know, so it doesn't feel unfairly priced, except, you know, for those corners they cut, which are across the board.
One thing that is absolutely not unfairly priced is the cost of super chats here on Young Brandos in Style. Guys, if you appreciate these late night streams or these evening streams on the West Coast, show a little love to Young Brando with a highlighted comment, I like to call them, or a super chat. And of course, your memberships are very much appreciated. This is the place for real watch talk for real enthusiasts. So show your support.
Thank you. I appreciate that. But in the absence of that, please at least hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do that. And yeah, if you like your comments to be read, the best way is to send them as a super chat. What do you think about this? I love this. I loved finding this. That do you know Maya Jama?
I do not, but obviously know what that is. And is that a what is that, cornelian dial or what?
It's an actual coral dial that,
wow,
in this case is from Wind Vintage, previously sold, which matches the watch that she has on her wrist, which happens to be a variation of the Rolex Midas, reference 4314. And she had the watch first and went out to get the Birkin to match it. She's the host of the original Love Island. So it's you don't even know what Love Island is, OC.
I don't.
Oh my God, man, you're missing out. It's
is that where they throw like 16 young hot people on an island and have them, you know?
See, you don't even need to know. You don't. Exactly. You're a real Hegelian. You can.
That's right.
You can dialectically reach the point. That's exactly it. They throw. It's a reality show. Yeah, they throw 16 hot people together and have them mate.
Yep.
To put it in civilized terms, but she's just hosting it. This was when she was at Wimbledon, but then she went out and got a Birkin in the classic orange H, the orange H color. I thought that was actually quite great, right? That, you know, maybe she's either doing something very horological or I'm always doing something feminine, which is I always base my outfits on what watch I want to wear first. So it was nice to see that a woman was doing that.
Sometimes I'll do that too. Like if I really want to wear a blue watch or whatever, then I'll make sure that I wear a blue shirt, or the opposite. If I'm wearing a black shirt, I won't wear colored watches if I'm wearing a black shirt.
But yeah, I was happy to come across this. By the way, that's what it ends up. The more contemporary stuff I do, I feel like some sort of paparazzo. I scour like gossip websites. It's become very strange, but sometimes you find great watches.
You have to do it so frequently. I mean, you're on a daily regimen, sometimes probably even hourly. Like every few hours, you have to scour and see what's changed, what's available.
But this is my job, Ossi. I take it very professionally and very seriously. The fact that people don't super chat and want to just soak in the information and enjoyment, that's not my fault. That's just the way they
of human nature. That's right. But at the end, your Instagram is obviously and arguably one of the best. I mean, there's these I don't know, call them aggregators, but like these celeb watch spotter type, that do the celebrity thing.
Yeah.
I think you do it with, I think with extreme level of integrity and quality to it. So.
And they usually steal from me. Yeah. A lot of their posts are stuff that I dug up from the archives, and days, sometimes weeks later, they post it and then give credit to some random person who doesn't even do what we do.
Yeah.
Like one of the biggest culprits of that is Vertigo 1983.
Yeah, there's 2 or 3 of these sites. I think Celeb Watch Spotter is one of them, and there's another one that usually pops in my feed. Like I love watches. Right?
I don't follow any of them. Well, I don't give them follows. I also don't follow them on any regular basis, but people alert me, people let me know, and I go. For example, this is the visual that I used weeks and weeks ago for my fundraiser that I did for Racing Dementia. They just posted it a week ago. I did it more than a month ago when this event was actually happening. They stole it from me. They adapted it. Then I have this one. I got this. I did this. The credit goes to someone called Circle Red Watches, which I blocked, obviously, because they're not even a watch spotting. They're a dealer who saw it from my website and passed it on to them, I guess. So I made sure to block them. But yeah, so those supposed aggregators who either just write one line or have some AI generated nonsense, not only are they of lesser quality, they're also vicious fikers. They just steal other people's work, like you said, aggregate them, and supposedly,
there's different. There's different styles too, and then what some of them have come across. It's a method of presentation. There's an art and a science to how you present yours, right? You have We've talked about this before. There's a formula to why yours works, but it's not the only way to do it. I mean, you have the full shot, which is the watch in context. Then you have the watch on the wrist, and then you have the watch. And the text is really where where a lot of the meat is. A lot of these other aggregators, like these celeb sites, they'll focus a lot on the watch and maybe the value of the watch with a price on it. To get, it's like it's the hype around the celebrities wearing a $500,000 watch kind of thing. You could certainly adopt in reverse some of their stuff too, and do different kinds of content, but your style works. But I can understand why their style is also why people view it and click on it as well.
Well, I mean, some of it is simply because they have been there and they have had a larger following, and and also because they buy followers and likes and interactions. I think when it comes to pound for pound, for having 23,000 followers, I think I have a better rate
Oh,
than
100%. Yeah,
than
your
the,
engagement is a gazillion times higher than theirs. Like there's a one called like wrist check, and they have a particular formula where they show the photo, but there's a little caption.
yeah.
Not a lot of text, but a caption, and then they also have multiple pages that you can scroll through. Like a
That's something that I adopted, multiple pages thing. I add either another shot or like, lifestyle or closer photos of the watch, because I actually asked people in my broadcast channel on Instagram. They have basically a handy method of sending out your posts and some behind the scenes content, etc. So feel free to add that when you go to my profile on Instagram. If you so wish, you can see that. But yeah, there I asked, whether I should add, photos after the swipe, and people encouraged me to do that. So I do more of a carousel thing. But I know the way they do it is like, like week off watches on whatever celebrity. But again, like, they steal other people's work without credit. So I can't respect those websites, and I would never deal with such dealers either, right? The dealer social media content creator types, like Roman Sharf, for example, if they steal from other creators in their social media enterprise, how can you trust them as businessmen? It's like, that's just bad morals. You can't do business with these kinds of people. Wrist check, I would put in the same bucket of crabs. They're all the same. They're all the same. It's a cesspool. The world of watches, it's like, mostly people with bad morals, who want to make a quick buck. And they do, by the way. It's people like me who actually do honest work, who get jack shit. That's always amazing to me.
I don't think there's anybody who follows you here that doesn't follow you on Instagram. Your Instagram is one of the best, if not the best, for that kind of presentation of celebrity and sports with
like
watch history.
Justin Thoreau, the actor.
I don't know him.
No.
Who?
Justin Thoreau.
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with him.
Mulholland Drive, Inland Empire, David Lynch movies. No. Anyway, he's wearing a cool gold sub. Can I interest you in that? No.
I do like those nipple dial subs. I like the nipple dial GMT is better with the Jubilee bracelet, but.
Oh yeah, I mean, the root beer on a Jubilee bracelet is just, something else. Or the Mocha GMT, they sometimes call it the full gold version. Yeah, I don't know. There's something about it, but I guess, like, it's because it's different, I guess, than how they do it now. There's a certain appeal to it. But Sly's gold sub has a nipple dial, and also a Tiffany signed dial as well, as it happens. But I guess that has a hold on me as well. This is apparently a birthday year watch for him. Like, it's a 1971 sub. So, which is interesting. What do you think about that whole pursuit of a birthday, or birth year watch, rather?
I understand it. I mean, for a while, I pursued. I mean, I'm a 1970, so it's really hard to find something that's 1970. But by absolute luck, I ended up with this, which is the Texano, which happens to be 1970.
Uh,
You know, will I keep it because of that? No, I mean, but it just happens to be that this came out in, I think, 69 and 70.
yeah, that's an amazing watch at any rate, like you said, right? That
Yep.
doesn't have to be your reason for it. My friend Eric Wind is, the reason he militates against it is because he wants to provide the best example, right? That people can afford, that people can buy,
regardless of the year.
yeah, and a lot of people, especially, I think 5 to 10 years ago, it was even a bigger trend that everyone was hunting for a birth year watch, and he had a lot of people coming to him like that, right? Do you have a 1980 sub? And if you don't, okay, I'm not interested. Or like, can you source me a 1980 sub? Not the best example, not whatever. So I understand his mentality from there as well, because again, Eric is the kind of person, he gives me a lot of shit about a lot of the pieces in my collection, right? Next time you buy something like that, you have to buy through me. You have to, you clearly shouldn't. So he doesn't spare that kind of criticism or
No.
simple objection.
I understand from a dealer's perspective why, from a fulfillment orientation, it's a very difficult thing for a customer to approach you and put that filter on it from the outset.
But then again, there are a lot of dealers whose entire website is, they have a part of the search engine where you can just put in the exact year of the watch, so it would be, it would give you your birth year watches. So it's it cuts both ways, so to speak. Some dealers have made a business out of that. Others are actually at this point sending people off. Justin Thoreau, by the way, was in the American Psycho as well. That's right.
More important than a birth year watch was I've always thought it would be cool to own a 1987 Daytona, as that was the last year of the movement before they went to the 40-30 or whatever the movement was, the Zenith in 1988. So
last year of Valjoux 77-27.
72. Yep.
How's it going, man? Tickle my talk. This person I'm sure you don't even. This is Bud Crawford, the 4-weight world champion, 2 times undisputed world champion, who is gonna face Canelo in a little more than 2 weeks now. And he struck an endorsement deal recently with Ulysse Nardin. And actually, my friend Jason was the person who made that happen, who established that connection.
Nice.
And I think they really found a gem here. I'm talking about Ulysse Nardin, because you're talking about someone who, again, toiled in relative obscurity and in silence for years, and really made his way to the very top of the sport. And just last year, in the context of that beef between Kendrick Lamar and Drake, Kendrick actually dropped his name in a song, which, pardon me, took me aback. It caught me, out of nowhere, because, obviously I know people, I'm not the only person who watches boxing, but I was like, whoa, how did Kendrick mention him, putting him in the same sentence as another elite rapper, Pusha T, but also comparing him to himself, because the line is something like, he's Terrence Thornton, that's Pusha T's real name. I'm Terrence Crawford. I'm whooping feet. So I'm like, that it was just, to drop that LA slang there about, beating people up. But comparing his lyrical prowess to, Crawford's skills, that was amazing. So for Ulysse Nardin to seek him out and put a watch like this on his wrist, I think it's great. Did you ever see the Blast Freewheel? This version.
No.
I like this watch. It's kind of like an even more futuristic version in a way of the Breguet Tradition, if you like those. This particular piece, I think, is even more interesting because the art of marqueterie, right? The little inlays that they usually make out of wood to create these complex interlocking designs. This actually does the same art. This style incorporates the same art, but done with slivers of blue silicon, like silicium, which is obviously used, in technical material in watches usually. So for them to translate that into aesthetics here, I found, always to be a very interesting proposition. And it's a flying tourbillon right here.
Small. Small. It looks small, the tourbillon.
Yeah. It's actually not a large balance wheel, which more traditional watches do that. I think in this case I think it fits their modern aesthetic and the general proportion in terms of the dial. Probably they wanted something more nimble, because this watch also prides itself on its power reserve, which is, I think, 6 days, I want to say. Not 8. No, full week, 7 days. So obviously, these are the barrel bridges. That's where the reserve is held and released from. But obviously, a larger tourbillon cage inevitably weighs a little more and costs more energy to move, right? So possibly a larger tourbillon cage, even if it would be more aesthetically pleasing, would eat into that 7-day power reserve, right? So probably there's some calculation about that as well for its size.
Now, Ulysse Nardin is owned by Sewing Group.
Say again? What is it called?
I think they're called Sewing, Sowind, Sowind Group.
Okay. Yeah, that's right. It's like what broke out of
Kering, I think.
Like it was the executives of Ulysse Nardin and Gérard Perregaux that moved out.
They seem to be doing a good job getting retailers to push and highlight the brand more.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think retailers are looking. I mean, you have the traditional brands like IWC. You can think of a multi-brand retailer like a Bucherer or Watches of Switzerland. They probably have JLC, IWC, Cartier, Tudor, Breitling, and I think they're looking for different brands with sufficient margin that they can introduce to the customer base. And I think Ulysse Nardin and Parmigiani are two brands that are probably doing it better than the most. Not that they're doing it great, but it's just like I think they've gotten some traction over the past few years.
Yeah, I think even GP is doing better. Actually, Gerard Perregaux is doing better. But the problem, yeah, it was the association with certain shady figures, I think, which wasn't in their control. Which that there are certain brands that have benefited a lot from that and suffered a lot from that, right?
Mm.
Hublot, for example. Yes, there were also a lot of people who always hated Hublot, but I think if it weren't for Nico Leonard, they wouldn't be so widely and unreasonably hated. Like I know people who don't actually know anything about Hublot but hate it on the basis of
Right.
it's and yeah, G-Shock being God tier, right? I mean it's one of the most garbage watches ever created. Just the whole basis of it is like it's indestructible. I mean, yeah,
I
so,
know.
so fucking what? So is your as non-watch people say. So is your smartphone, right? I don't use a case. Nothing happens to it
Mhm.
until something happens to it. Of course, like on the thousandth fall, it finally breaks. But yeah, joking aside, it's I think it's an interesting model. That's why I want secretly Ulysse Nardin to be even more successful, because I feel there are so many brands that are held by large luxury conglomerates that don't actually care so much, that are not invested so deeply in making every single brand that they hold successful. So for these couple of brands to devolve from a larger luxury group who didn't care that much about horology anyways, um, and go their own way, I like it. I wanted to end up in a place where they do well.
As long as they don't think they're big enough to have mono brand boutiques.
That requires a lot of investment. I think for that you need Chanel to buy a stake, you know, in your enterprise. Then you can actually go into the restaurant business if you like. I think you know about what brand I'm talking about
That's
here.
right.
So it's
Yeah.
get your go get your Michelin star if you like, but you need a lot of capital for that. That can't be your priority unless you have serious financial backing. This is everyone's my favorite king, anyways. King of Denmark. I like that family. I like the Glücksburg family. The Greek royal family is basically a branch of the same. So they have had a lot of great watches over the years, but Frederick X, who acceded to the throne last year when his mother abdicated. Um, he has been a Rolex guy for a while, but he's also served, of course, in the military, and I think had his longest stint with uh, what are literally translated as the Frogman Corps of the Danish Navy, like a special ops team of divers. And apparently, this was basically a unit watch that Omega did for them. Um, and he actually wore this watch like in full uniform and shit when he was actually acceding to the throne in the whole ceremony. Um, Here's a picture of that. It's a little harder to see here, but certainly easier here. But he was just casually wearing it on another. It's like a typical watch guy stuff, right? You have a cool watch and you wear it everywhere on a NATO. It's like it's a little 5 years ago, but we'll accept it, right? When the king is just like us,
It's a pass.
you
Yeah.
have to you have to give him a pass. But I also just like the tactical look of this particular piece. Matte black dial, matte black bezel, all brushed finishing and everything. Of course, closed case back. It's like a proper tool watch, even though the larger aesthetics of the pieces, of course, is a contemporary Seamaster.
Yep.
And yeah, he honestly just looks like a finance pro, like with his sleeves rolled up in like a Tattersall shirt and a puffy
vest. Yeah.
That's it.
Might as well say North Face on it to complete the look.
It says Panormal Studios, but which apparently is a cycling / lifestyle brand. I wonder if too bad they stopped giving. They're phasing out the practice of giving royal warrants, apparently. So even those famous cookies are losing the warrant by the end of 2029, apparently, which is a shame. Guys, at least give it a like. Upvote.
Give the show a like.
Since you're not doing anything else, that's the least you can do. This is I think about soccer all the time, or football, as the rest of the world calls it. The Champions League draws are happening tomorrow. This gentleman, unfortunately, is not playing in the Champions League, but he is playing for Fiorentina in the Serie A. He was one of the most promising names in Italian football, almost a decade ago, around 2016. Then he kind of had a fall from grace. But last season, he had his best season and breakout season. So apparently GQ Italia put him on the cover of their September issue, which is dedicated to Calcio. So he's wearing the black ceramic double balance wheel open worked, which is now discontinued. What do you think about the open wheel? The double balance wheel open worked.
I think AP does some of the most attractive, technically impressive looking open worked dial watches. They can sometimes look like a bowl of spaghetti, but
okay.
But they tend to be more masculine and technical. And you look at them and you see a lot of stuff going on, a lot of dimensionality to it. So I mean, I'm not a big fan of mixing the rose gold with the black ceramic, but they do tend to do that. Like even on their chronograph, their black ceramic chronograph, they have rose gold hands and rose gold bolts.
I think the version of this, maybe that's discontinued too, but there's an even more prominent one, right? Where this has the rhodium plated movement that has pink gold details, including the hexagonal bolts on the bezel. Mm-hmm. They also had a whole salmon look for the movement for a later version. I want to say that's discontinued as well. I'm not.
Well, they came out with 3 versions earlier this year that have variations of salmon, full salmon. Basically movements.
Yeah, I think that one might still be available. No, that was a limited edition of 150, so that's probably gone already. But I was talking about this. This probably is insufferable to you entirely, and I honestly agree. I think that contrast hurts my eyes to a certain extent. As much as I love a salmon dial, you heard it here first. I said, again, just observing trends, right? I said, salmon is going to be the new green or new blue, whatever. And then every brand started, releasing salmon dial watches. again, it's not because I had, a prophecy or even an insight that I heard from somewhere. It's just, once a trend is generated, every brand does their own version of it. That was an orange cat who walked behind.
Oh yeah, that's Butter, my daughter's cat. Hey, Butter.
It's cute. But I love, honestly, I probably told this story a number of times, but I wanted to hate the ceramic APs. Like when I first saw the pictures, when I first heard about them, I thought, wow, what a heresy! It can't be happening. But I first actually had my chance to handle one and spend considerable amount of time with it. The New York auction previews are great for that, by the way. For those of you who are in New York or in the tri-state area, don't miss it. At least once a season, make your way to New York, attend one of the previews. Except for the usual suspects, they're lovely people. With Philips, for example, the which is the auction preview that I attended few years back in New York. I had the chance to get my hands on the Perpetual calendar, blue ceramic. To me, that's still the least desirable one. And I know later we heard, of course, that was kind of a result of an accident, right? When they were trying to find the original Royal Oak dial blue, they had to settle for that. But I loved it so much, the fact that it was not only lightweight, it was so beautifully crafted, like any other Royal Oak, with same techniques of finishing, with the same interplay of polished brush surfaces. I just thought that it was a great application, because there are other brands that use ceramic, and I think it's still an interesting material to experiment with, as long as the upcharge is not unconscionable. But the finishing seems to be very one-dimensional and dull with a lot of other brands when it comes to ceramic watches. Whereas APs, if it's a Royal Oak, they're going to finish it like a Royal Oak. It's going to look and feel every bit luxury as a Royal Oak. And when it comes to the modern open working, like you said, there's the contemporary versions have that industrial and even masculine look. So I, even though it's missing some of the handwork of like earlier versions of AP open working and the floral hand engravings and everything, I appreciate it as it is, right? It is missing some of the hand finished beveling and whatever. It does have some machine burrs here and there if you look very closely, and sometimes it's good not to know how the sausage is made, but aesthetically I appreciate it. I like the fact that they don't. AP is not a brand that does open working for no reason. It is usually something interesting to see when a watch is open worked. Whether it's the under the dial works of a Perpetual calendar, or the double balance bridge here from both sides of the watch. Mm-hmm. There's something that you can actually contemplate, that you can appreciate, which you can't under a closed dial, under a traditional dial. So those are the things that I like about AP's contemporary open work pieces. And I think among the ceramic, I still like the black ceramic a little better. What's your favorite if you could pick one?
The new dark blue ceramic is very, very nice, obviously. Um,
I agree.
yeah, I tend to like the ones with the graphite instead of the rose gold or the uh, salmon
Mhm.
colored movements. The more the dark gray and graphite, more technical looking aesthetic to me. But I was also like, for some reason, I like to have that bridge not as prominent. Um,
Mhm.
is it a bridge that goes over the, what is that, the mainspring or whatever that is there,
That is the balance bridge. Yeah.
the balance bridge.
Yeah.
For some reason, like I don't like that to be as, like, to me, that on this particular one it just sticks out to me. Like my eye goes right to it,
Hmm.
and because I am a product of social media, YouTube, that is just too closely associated with like Gerard Perregaux. You know, like the focus on the bridge. Like when you think of Gerard Perregaux, the Three Bridges design, or even Armin Strom, they tend to do a lot of visual focus on the bridge itself,
Hmm.
and it's very prominent. And I just don't like it to be super prominent.
No, I understand. I mean, obviously, again, we are kind of circling back to my misgivings or nitpickings about the monochromatic look of the Vacheron Perpetual calendars, right?
Mhm.
The, that was their intention, although I would have preferred it, or I would have liked to see it one way. And here, of course, the intention is to highlight, because that's the thing you are meant to see in this open working. Um, but it's not always that way. For example, I think the king of these series is this special edition that they had in white gold.
There you go.
I think it was a Japan edition initially. Man, this is, to me, this is the height of it all. With
What are those gems?
topaz, I think. Maybe sometimes they call it aquamarine as well.
Yep.
Um, and you see the hands are blackened so that they jump out just a little more from the rhodium plated caliber. The balance bridge blends in a way that you would appreciate. And I think it just looks beautiful with the white gold.
Yeah, I'm also not a fan of like the frosted gold with the open worked together. I've seen some of those.
And they have a lot of models like that too.
Yeah.
You're
Or the
right.
rainbow with the open work. They do that as well.
And of course, like you said, the Bleu Nuit Nuage 50 is the classic. But here, you don't mind that
Here
it's
it's not so.
gold toned.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me as much here.
No, I think also this is a rendering, of course. I think in pictures it looks even better. I haven't seen the ceramic in person yet, so I can't speak to how beautiful it is. But having liked the black the most out of everything that I've seen, with the white and with the original blue, I can't imagine not liking it. I don't like the particular color combination between navy and yellow, but that's another matter altogether.
When you look at a watch like this, or thinking back to the Vacheron Overseas, the white gold with the burgundy dial. How much of the wearability comes to mind when you're thinking and assessing your attraction to the watch? Like you look at it and go, wow, that's incredible. But do you also factor in like, okay, this has a burgundy dial, so maybe I won't get to wear it as much, or maybe this is a blue ceramic watch. Who's, how often is it appropriate to be wearing a blue ceramic?
Honestly, I think this blue, I don't think you would not wear it in a context where you wouldn't mind wearing a black ceramic watch. I feel like the white ceramic or the older blue, like the bright blue ceramic, I think those are maybe harder to match when you approach it from that, like a little bit of more fussy stylistic perspective. The burgundy dial, listen again.
Here we have burgundy again here in the AP.
Yeah, this is more plum maybe than burgundy. I don't know what they call it. No, they call it vivid burgundy hue. Yeah, honestly, I mean, it's I don't find these to be as divisive as what other sorts of combinations might be, right? I mean, if you don't like wearing a jam set watch, you would not wear it one way or another. When we go back to the, topaz set bezel version of the double balance wheel open worked. And some people don't wear anything, either all black or, silvered white kind of dials. It's just going to be that. I don't imagine, not wearing something like this, because it's too casual or too formal or too whatever. That doesn't mean what I said initially is true, right? I would probably start with this and then decide on what to wear, right? Does this jacket, complement it somehow? If I'm wearing a baseball cap, am I gonna try to keep it in the same sort of color palette, or am I gonna completely go against it? Those are things that I would try to keep in mind, but I can't see not wearing something like this. Hey, Jockers Wild, how are you? Yeah, they have a lot of appealing stuff in the contemporary catalog. The Bethune is doing really well, I think, in their efforts of gaining more ambassadors. I mean, Tommy Paul was one of the first, if not the first. It was back in 2023, I think, before Wimbledon, I want to say. But yeah, he's wearing something different now. This is the steel wheels, DB28 XS steel wheels.
Yeah, they have three pretty high-profile tennis ambassadors who've done very well for De Bethune.
They have Emma Navarro, Jessica Pegula,
yeah,
and then Tommy Paul, and they have the golfer Minwoo Lee as well. Those are the athletes I know, but they might even have more.
No? And what they do is they wear the watches on court while they're playing. Mm-hmm. They're photographed a lot in the watches, and then I think 1916 Company and the sales executives at De Bethune do a lot of inviting people to events where those tennis stars are playing, and they do they have a community, a Moser club, so to speak, of enthusiasts that they invite to celebrate, you know, de Bethun's rise.
I mean, this is him returning a service, right? You know, so he's not just wearing it in that celebratory moment. He's actually wearing it in active competition. So does the golfer Minwoo Lee, by the way. You know, I appreciate it. I really like the fact that they have started going for more compact, thinner, smaller case sizes. Even though, again, I was always surprised since I first got the experience of wearing a number of different de Bethune watches with those floating lugs, especially like 42, 43 wears, you know, at least in terms of your experience and wrist feel, like a smaller watch. That being said, I think for someone like me who has a thinner wrist, the DB28XS is obviously the kind of the optimum. So I'm glad they are making more watches for that series in particular. And I like this these grooves on the bridge and on the Delta bridge too. Like it's kind of like a thumbprint design.
Good point.
I enjoy that.
Yeah, the I'm not sure what you call that. A lot of people call it the Star Trek kind of vibe, but it's the arrowhead.
Yeah, arrowhead, delta, you know, triangle.
Triangle. It is. It's. I wouldn't say polarizing. It's just, you know, it's not everybody's cup of tea in terms of a visual design.
I completely understand. I mean, it's not. Again, it's. You know, I think they're at peace with the fact that they are not going to be for everyone. But that being said, I think, you know, sometimes brands have that kind of statement cloud their vision and get in between themselves and potential customers. You know, they could have certainly gone that way and say, like, you know, hey, it's not for everyone, so 42 millimeters it is, right? You know, that's how our watches are going to be. But sometimes being bought out by someone else can open new doors. I think maybe if it weren't for 1916 company, if it weren't for the former Watchbox, maybe they would have been stuck in that rut of just doing their own thing and being perhaps too niche for their own good. But I think they're finding a happy medium between being themselves and being still accessible in a way to a wider public, at the very least.
Yeah, fair point.
And then this is Rory McIlroy, the golfer, who was in the stands on the first day of US Open when he was wearing the Central Tourbillon, which is a very beautiful watch. I mean, he's an Omega brand ambassador, but clearly cares enough about watches that he actually chose something like this to add to his collection as well. What's your feeling towards tourbillons? Are you enchanted by them at all, or do you just not care? It's not something you have ever been interested?
Well, the engineering desire to improve the accuracy of timekeeping is the purpose behind the tourbillon, and the fact that watchmakers went to such great lengths to try and, I don't know, solve a problem or improve on the engineering of the craft. I think has to be admired, that they would come up with something to account for the watch being in different gyroscopic positions and the effect that would have on the movement. Is it something that in today's modern watchmaking that's needed? I think a lot of it is a engineering flex on the part of the maisons.
Even, I mean, I think beyond that, I guess being a fan of Daniel Roth, of course, I'm going to say this, but I think the kind of role that Daniel Roth played in the revival of Breguet, in translating Breguet's aesthetic to the world of the wristwatch, had a lot to do with the popularization of tourbillon for wristwatches. And of course, his main idea was to have it visible through an aperture on the dial, right? So it became, of course, it is a regulating mechanism, right? That comes from the world of pocket watches. However, in the world of wristwatches, I think from the revival of Breguet onwards, it's always been about one having some sort of visual access to the heart of the movement, and also just the romanticism of seeing the revolution of that heart, the beating of that heart, as it were, whenever you look directly onto the dial. And again, from that point on, the game about the tourbillon changed, right? Patek to this day refuses to show a tourbillon on the dial side, right? There's an exception to it, but that's not the usual way they do things. It says tourbillon, it says the movement number, but you have to turn the watch around to see the actual cage. But yeah, that's only the realm of some rarefied makers, whereas most wristwatch makers who do the tourbillon today are much more interested in the aesthetics of it. And that's why a central tourbillon also makes sense, right? Because that's literally the centerpiece of this watch. So let's put it where it belongs, just dab smack in the middle of the dial.
And I think Omega did a very good job with it. It looks really good. And there are certain brands that know how to incorporate the tourbillon into the DNA of their brand and make it a complement rather than something that distracts you.
And this also, you were saying, for example, about the Ulysse Nardin that we were looking at earlier. This is by no means small. It has a largish balance wheel. You see the overcoil of the hairspring, at the heart of the watch. The finishing, obviously, with the hand finish bevels, is at a level that you will not see in 99% of Omega's catalog, right? It's completely at a different level. And yeah, it's an exceptional watch. It's not the kind of watch that an influencer or ambassador chooses usually. So,
right.
Good work for
good on him. Good on
McElroy. I know nothing about golf. I know Ozzy hates me for it, but yeah, there we are. By the way, guys, hit the like button. I think we are slowly winding down.
I got to jump.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I'm happy to Happy to live stream also on my own for hours on end, but since people don't actually appreciate it, you know, um, because we live in a capitalist work, and when people don't actually pay you for the work you've done, it means they consider it worthless. We'll have to sign
We
off.
just hit a peak of 16 people, or is that
But who gives a fuck? Like what does that number do for me? Does it feed me? Does it buy me my morning coffee? Does it pay my rent?
someone
Um,
buy Young Brando's morning coffee for tomorrow?
does it? I don't know. Does it buy me a drink at the bar? Does it get me a cigar? It does none of those things. So as thankful I am, um, whenever people watch it, obviously it doesn't mean anything for me. It's not an ego stroke. It's about actually making money. Because I actually put full time into this on Instagram and when I come on YouTube. So it's fair to expect. Um, and I'm sure Ozzy agrees too. Like, look, I mean, I know it's off-putting to a lot of people, but if to me at the end of the day it boils down to this, right? If it's off-putting to the right people, because I don't want someone in my audience who thinks they can take for granted what I do for them, right? If it disturbs them for me to ask for monetary recognition of the value, the insight, the knowledge that I generate, by all means, they can get the fuck out and make sure the door doesn't hit them on the way out. So I'm at that point now.
Fair enough.
Thank you for your resounding support, Ossi. I know I can always depend on you for that. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thank you for chiming in from the chat. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for sharing your perspective. We talked about the number of things, a lot of them new releases, but also just in general, the state of the industry as it usually boils down to. Anything you want to add or plug or share, Osi?
Nope. Thanks for having me on. I'm here to support. I'm a fan, so I was planning on joining, being up late. So
Thank you so much. I know I was supposed to go in earlier, but I really did have to make that phone call. So thank you for still indulging me with your presence. I do appreciate that.
I'm Brandock used to be a thing, driving super chats, but tonight we didn't do it. So
I don't think it was ever driving super chats, let's be honest. But and I never understood. I never understood what drives super chats in the first place. It's certainly not the substance and knowledge and insights that you deliver to people. I know that by now. I have discovered that. But
quality always rises.
low class entertainment for low class people. I guess that's what gets super chats. And please continue frequenting on these channels. Don't pollute my channel with your presence. I would rather talk to 3 people in my audience rather than 20 people who just freeload. So
100%.
Not enough Tudor on this stream. I love Tudor, man. Get me a hat. I'll wear it every day if that gets super chats. I'll even get a Tudor myself if that gets super chats.
Brody always trolls me with the Tudor comments in the chat.
Yeah, I'll commit to it. The first 3,000 from the super chats from now on will go, if you accomplish that for me in the next 2 months, it will go to buying a Tudor.
And listen, tune into my channel if you appreciate a tutor-free sanctuary where hype and love for Rolex and Patek dominate the philosophy.
That's it. That's it. The original OC. Original OC. Aussie is having a revolution there. I don't know what.
Whoa.
Okay, tell me before I log off Aussie, what that reaction is exactly about, so I can go in peace.
I don't know. Commitment to having a tutor.
Maybe. I mean,
Yeah,
again,
it
yeah.
is.
If Super Chats raise me $3,000 in the next 2 months, I'll do it.
You'd blow it on a tutor?
Yeah, absolutely. It won't happen. So don't worry about it. But yeah, if I get $3,000 in Super Chats in September and October, by all means, I'm getting a Black Bay 58 bronze. That's it. That's gonna be
On secondary.
Hmm?
On secondary, so you don't lose like 50%.
Oh hell yeah, of course.
Whew, thank God.
I've never gotten a watch at retail. You know this. To this day, I have not. I don't care if it gains value in the. I just won't entertain, that whole song and dance. Let's put it like that. It is what it is. But yeah, we made the commitment. You heard it here first. If you give me $3,000 in Super Chats in the next 2 months, which hasn't happened, by the way, in the last 2 years, so good luck with that. I am getting a tutor with that money. All right. Good night, guys.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Stay safe, stay healthy, wear and enjoy your watches. Take care.
Peace out.